Yeah, Harry has a real problem now because he wants to come back to Britain in July for the Invictus Games. I'd be surprised if he and Meghan are given the police protection he's seeking. The idea of Meghan coming here appalls everyone. They're furious with the Sussexes on the whole. The general mood is just don't want anything to do with them.
A lot more. I mean, he said the most dreadful things in his book about Prince William, about Kate, about his father, and about Camilla, and about Britain too. And of course, it wasn't only in his book. He did it on the Netflix series and the Apple series. And all over the world, he's gone round saying Britain's a racist country and his family's racist and all the rest.
Tom Bower just dropped a serious warning, and this time, it's not just about his book Betrayal. He's going straight at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle over their rumoured plans to return to the United Kingdom. According to Bower, that return won't end well, not even close. Bower is being crystal clear. Harry and Meghan are no longer wanted in Britain. The streets aren't warm, the doors aren't open, and the welcome mat has been flipped upside down. The environment waiting for them back home is described as deeply hostile, way more than the couple seems to realise. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. You go on worldwide TV, point fingers at the royal family, air out every private family secret, and then act surprised when nobody's rolling out the red carpet. Bower says the audacity of these two is something else entirely. The public anger hasn't gone anywhere. People are still heated over that Oprah interview, the one that lit up headlines and split opinions across the globe. That controversy didn't fade. It just went underground, waiting. Things got even messier when Harry released his tell-all memoir, spilling private family matters that were never meant to leave the palace walls.
Please go away. Please leave us alone. We are disgusted with the way they have treated Prince William and Kate. We are horrified by the way they've treated their father, Prince Charles. Not a perfect guy, by the way, but remember, he did fund their original trip to California and paid for them for years and years and years.
Bower says that move cracked whatever trust was left between the couple and the British public, and that crack hasn't healed, not even a little. But here's where it gets interesting. Beyond the anger, Bower says there's something else settling in: exhaustion. The British public is simply tired. Every time Harry and Meghan show up, speak up, or sit down for an interview, the headlines explode into chaos. Walking back into the UK could reignite that whole firestorm instantly. And the public might not even be the biggest problem. The real wall could be coming from inside the palace itself. Senior royals have reportedly enjoyed the calm that settled in after the couple relocated to Montecito. No surprise revelations, no public disputes, just smooth, focused royal operations. Harry and Meghan showing backup risks, blowing all of that up. The timing couldn't be worse either. Key members of the royal family are currently dealing with serious health challenges, heavy responsibilities that demand full attention. Throwing emotional tension and media distractions into that mix right now, that's the last thing anyone inside the institution wants. Bower's advice is blunt. Show up if you must, handle your business, and leave quietly. No grand reunions, no ceremonial receptions, just in and out. King Charles is locked in on diplomacy and national priorities, working to strengthen Britain's position on the world stage.
Okay, enough is enough. We really do need to distance ourselves from these two.
I think the royal family, you're talking about a sick king, sick Kate. Camilla isn't all that well either. The last thing they need is the controversy that the Meghan and Harry can bring. They don't want that disturbing their lives. So we're in for a roller coaster.
One high-profile family reunion could hijack those headlines completely, pulling focus away from matters that actually affect the country. According to Bower, that kind of disruption wouldn't just be awkward, it would be a serious institutional mistake. So why is Harry even coming back? One word: Invictus. The Invictus Games, his international sporting event honoring wounded and injured service members, is being hosted in Britain. That makes Harry impossible to ignore, which puts everyone in an incredibly awkward position. But just because Harry shows up doesn't mean the royals have to. Sources suggest the royal family may deliberately stay away, keeping their distance to avoid getting pulled back into the drama Harry himself started. Meanwhile, Harry is reportedly hoping almost desperately that at least one senior royal will show their face, just to make things look normal. According to Bauer, that's unlikely to happen. And that's a massive problem. Without royal support, the Invictus Games doesn't just lose famous faces in the front row, it loses its prestige and global credibility entirely. Then there's the security situation, which is messy on its own. Harry has been locked in a legal battle trying to secure official police protection while on British soil. Without a restored security status,
absolutely appalled if he would. A terrible mistake. The focus has got to be on repairing relations between America and Britain, not on Harry's foolish behavior.
his return gets even more complicated. A prince visiting his home country without state-backed protection raises serious questions about his standing and his safety. Bauer also flagged the legal heat surrounding Harry's disputes with British media organisations. Those leaked chats with Charlotte Griffiths have already put him in a tight corner. If court proceedings expose more evidence that contradicts Harry's version of events, his public image takes another hit. Showing up to the UK right after losing in court? That's not just bad timing, that's a PR disaster with his name written all over it. And let's not forget Meghan. Public frustration toward her in Britain hasn't gone anywhere. Many people feel she spent years criticising royal traditions while continuing to benefit from her royal title. The ongoing use of the Duchess of Sussex title during business ventures and public appearances keeps that debate alive and loud. According to Bauer, walking into the UK under all these conditions piling up at once could be a decision Harry ends up deeply regretting. Calls to strip Harry and Meghan of their royal titles have been circulating for years now, and the conversation is only getting louder. It's not just tabloid chatter anymore.
They need the Invictus Games in Birmingham in Britain. This year, the rehearsal, and next year, the actual games, to rebuild their credibility, to reassert their royalty. And that's exactly what I hope the King will not allow to happen. He will not give Harry the protection that he's demanding for his family and not welcome him in the way that Harry wants.
Real people, public figures, and even some political voices have started asking the same uncomfortable question. At what point do the titles go? So far, no action has been taken. But the fact that this debate keeps coming back, keeps trending, keeps grabbing headlines, that alone says something important about where things stand. Tom Bauer believes King Charles is unlikely to personally push for a title removal, at least not anytime soon. And the reasoning makes sense on the surface. Charles has spent years trying to position himself as a modernizing, composed, and measured king. Dragging the monarchy into another explosive public confrontation with his own son would contradict everything he's been working to project. Stripping titles is messy, it's historic, it sends shockwaves. And for a king who's already navigating serious health challenges while trying to hold the institution together, that's a battle he simply doesn't want to pick right now.
And you think about Invictus and how Harry's objective is to have just one member of the British royal family, for the love of God, anyone, show up to support him next year, to give him the credibility that he's lacked.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Because while Charles may be holding back, Prince William is a completely different story. William has reportedly made his position crystal clear, and it has absolutely nothing to do with standing next to his brother, shaking hands, and pretending that everything is fine. Those days are over. The warm brotherhood that the public once watched grow up on the world stage, it has been replaced by something far colder, far more calculated, and according to those close to the situation, far more permanent than most people realize. William isn't just distant from Harry, he's reportedly done. Sources consistently paint a picture of a man who feels genuinely betrayed, not just by the Oprah interview, not just by the memoir, but by the accumulation of everything, every headline, every dig, every carefully worded statement that managed to cast a shadow over the royal family while maintaining plausible deniability. William has watched all of it. He's tracked every move, and from what those around him suggest, his patience ran out a long time ago. Think about what William is carrying right now. He's the future King of England. He has a young family to protect. He's managing public duties, international engagements, and the enormous weight of eventually stepping into the most scrutinized role in the world.
I'd be surprised if he and Meghan are given the police protection he's seeking. It looks like he's going to lose his case against the Daily Mail because he didn't tell the truth in sworn testimony when he gave evidence. Because, of course, he claimed he had no relationship at all with the Daily Mail on Sunday journalist Charlotte Griffith, and she, on the last day, produces this ream of emails which suggest a very close relationship between them.
The last thing he needs, the absolute last thing, is his brother showing up and redirecting every camera, every headline, and every conversation back toward family drama. William isn't being cold for no reason. He's protecting the institution, his family, and frankly, his own mental space. And according to Bauer, that boundary William has drawn, it isn't moving. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough, the sheer scale of how far Harry and Meghan's popularity has actually fallen. Because it hasn't just dipped, it has collapsed. And the speed of that collapse is genuinely staggering when you look at the timeline. Cast your mind back to when Harry and Meghan first appeared together publicly. The reaction was electric. Here was this beloved prince, the fun one, the relatable one, the one who wore his heart on his sleeve, and he had found someone extraordinary. Meghan came in like a breath of fresh air. She was sharp, warm, charismatic, and the public absolutely loved her for it. The wedding was a global event. Hundreds of millions of people watched. The streets of Windsor were packed. The energy was real, the excitement was genuine, and the goodwill toward this couple was almost unlimited. So what happened? How does a couple go from that level of global adoration to where they are now, where even showing up to an event generates more eye rolls than applause? The answer, according to Bauer and many others who have studied the situation closely, is a long series of choices. Choices that slowly, consistently, and irreversibly burned through the goodwill the public had extended to them.
The idea of Meghan coming here appalls everyone. They're furious with the Sussexes on the whole. The general mood is just don't want anything to do with them. And if he loses the Daily Mail case, it'll be even worse because he'll then be like Andrew, branded as a liar, that his evidence wasn't honest and sincere.
It started with the decision to step back from royal duties, which, on its own, might have been manageable. People understood the pressure. People were willing to give them space. But what followed that decision is what changed everything. Instead of stepping back quietly and building a private life, Harry and Meghan stepped back loudly, straight into the global media spotlight they claimed was suffocating them. The Oprah interview was a turning point that cannot be overstated. Sitting down on international television and making serious allegations against members of the royal family, a family that had not publicly responded, had not defended itself, and was operating under the strict constraint of never complaining and never explaining, that moment landed like a grenade. It divided public opinion sharply, and for a huge portion of the British public specifically, it crossed a line that simply could not be uncrossed. Then came the memoir, the tell-all book that pulled back the curtain on private conversations, personal moments, and family matters that had never been meant for public consumption. Every page felt like another withdrawal from an account that was already running low. Bauer describes it as a systematic dismantling of trust, not just with the royal family, but with the British public who had once cheered for them so loudly. And through it all, the commercial activity continued. The Netflix deals, the podcast, the brand partnerships, the carefully staged public appearances, all of it packaged and presented under the banner of the Sussex name and titles. That combination, criticizing the institution while continuing to commercially benefit from it, is what turned frustration into something deeper. Something that feels less like disappointment and more like genuine resentment. So when Bauer frames the Invictus Games appearance as a calculated attempt to claw back goodwill, he's not being uncharitable, he's being accurate. The Invictus Games is Harry's most legitimate and universally respected project.
He is terrified by the stripping of Andrew's title and told Meghan in no uncertain terms that once it's King William, they could well all lose their titles and lose everything. And if I was, I'm a betting man, I'm pretty sure that's what William will do, as the only way to save him from trouble, to get revenge.
Supporting wounded and injured service members is something that transcends politics, transcends drama, and transcends royal gossip. It's the one area where Harry's credibility has remained largely intact and leaning into that makes complete strategic sense if you're trying to rebuild a public image that has taken serious damage. But here's the brutal reality that Bauer is pointing to. Goodwill is not a switch you can flip back on whenever it's convenient. It doesn't work that way. You can't spend years making choices that erode public trust and then show up at a feel-good sporting event and expect everything to reset. The public has a long memory, especially the British public, who take their relationship with the monarchy personally, emotionally, and seriously. The royals aren't rushing to show up and lend their credibility to the games, and that silence speaks volumes, because royal attendance would send a message of unity, of support, of normalcy. And right now, none of those things reflect the actual reality of the situation. Showing up and smiling for cameras would be dishonest, and the institution has decided that protecting its integrity matters more than managing Harry's public relations problems. Without that royal backing, the Invictus Games in the UK faces a credibility challenge it hasn't had to deal with before. The Games have always carried an air of prestige, partly because of their royal connection. Strip that away, or rather, watch it quietly absent itself. And what you're left with is an event that still does genuinely important work, but one that no longer carries the symbolic weight it once did on British soil. And then there are the legal battles, because we absolutely cannot overlook those. Harry's ongoing disputes with British media organisations are still unresolved, still active, and still carrying the potential to produce headlines that could devastate whatever image rehabilitation he's hoping to achieve. Those leaked messages with Charlotte Griffiths have already created serious problems. If the courtroom produces more evidence that contradicts the version of events Harry has presented to the public, the version he wrote into a memoir, the version he delivered in interviews, the version that formed the foundation of his entire post-royal narrative, the consequences would be severe.
5 years ago, they were riding so high with their Netflix series and then with his best-selling autobiography and everything else. But they've fallen so far. It's so grubby, their trip to Australia. If he actually comes to London for these games, the Invictus Games, and goes to Birmingham, the idea of Meghan coming here appalls everyone.
Imagine arriving in the United Kingdom, cameras everywhere, all eyes on you, and simultaneously losing a high-profile court case that suggests your story didn't hold up to scrutiny. That's not just a bad week, that's a reputational earthquake. And Bauer warns that the timing of this return, layered on top of active legal proceedings, is exactly the kind of miscalculation that turns a difficult visit into a defining disaster. The security situation adds yet another complicated layer. Harry's legal fight to secure official police protection while in Britain remains unresolved. And the optics of that situation are genuinely strange. A prince, a man born into one of the most protected families on earth, visiting his home country without the protection that status would normally guarantee. It raises questions that don't have comfortable answers. Questions about where he actually stands, what his real relationship with the institution is, and whether the visit carries the legitimacy he clearly hopes it will project. And let's sit with that for a moment, because the security issue is more than just a logistical headache, it's symbolic. When a member of the royal family travels, protection isn't just about physical safety, it's about status, it's about recognition. It's the visible, unmistakable signal that the institution stands behind you, that you belong to something larger than yourself. and that the state considers your presence on its soil worthy of its highest level of care. When that protection is absent or worse, when it has to be fought for through the courts, it sends a message that no amount of positive press can drown out. It tells the world, and the British public specifically, that something fundamental has shifted. That the relationship between Harry and the institution he was born into is not what it once was and may never be again. Meghan's presence, or potential presence, in all of this adds even more complexity. Public sentiment toward her in Britain has remained consistently negative for some time now. The frustration isn't just about the Oprah interview or the memoir. It's about a pattern that many British people feel they've watched play out, repeatedly criticising the royal family and British traditions publicly, while simultaneously leaning on the Duchess of Sussex title for commercial purposes and public introductions. That tension hasn't resolved. It hasn't faded. And any visit that involves Meghan stepping onto British soil is guaranteed to reignite every single aspect of that debate immediately. The title question will come roaring back, the Oprah interview clips will start recirculating, the memoir quotes will get screenshotted and shared. Every uncomfortable moment from the last several years will get pulled back into the spotlight, not because the media is being unfair, but because that's simply what happens when the central figures in an ongoing story reappear in the place where the story began. There is no version of this visit where the past stays quiet. There is no arrival gate at a British airport that comes with a clean slate attached. And the media landscape they're walking back into is not a friendly one. The British press has a long institutional memory, a sharp instinct for conflict, and absolutely no obligation to make this easy for them. Every camera positioned outside every venue, every lip reader hired for every public appearance, every unnamed source ready to offer a reaction. The machinery of British tabloid coverage doesn't switch off, it switches into a higher gear the moment a high-value story walks back into its territory. And right now, Harry and Meghan are one of the highest-value stories that machinery has ever had the pleasure of covering. Bauer's overall assessment, when you pull all of these threads together, is sobering and clear. This isn't a situation where Harry and Meghan can show up, charm a few rooms, attend the games, and quietly shift the narrative in their favour. The conditions on the ground in the United Kingdom are too complicated, too loaded, and too hostile for that kind of soft reset to work. The political risks are real. Any association with ongoing legal battles and title controversies creates problems that extend beyond personal reputation. The personal risks are real. Walking into a family environment where key members have drawn firm boundaries, where reconciliation has not happened and may not happen, is emotionally and strategically dangerous. And the reputational risks are perhaps the most significant of all, because every misstep, every awkward moment, every headline that doesn't go their way will be amplified by a British press that has not forgotten and has not forgiven. Consider what a single bad day looks like in this context. One tense moment caught on camera, one report of a cold shoulder from a senior royal, one courtroom development that contradicts something Harry has said publicly, one Meghan appearance that lands the wrong way with a crowd that was already skeptical. Any one of those things, on their own, would be a damaging headline. All of them together happening simultaneously, in the same week, in the same country, under the same relentless media spotlight. That's not just a bad visit. That's a defining moment that follows them for years. That becomes the chapter heading in every future story written about this couple and this era of royal history. The institution, for its part, has clearly decided how it wants to play this, and the strategy is elegant in its simplicity: say nothing, do nothing, show up nowhere. Don't engage, don't respond, don't lend any credibility or warmth to a visit that the palace has not sanctioned and does not endorse. Let the silence do the work. Because in royal terms, silence is not neutral. Silence is a statement. And the statement the palace is making right now, loud and clear to anyone paying attention, is that this return does not have their blessing, and they are not going to pretend otherwise for the sake of appearances. That approach protects the institution. It protects King Charles, who is navigating his own health challenges while trying to maintain the dignity and focus that his reign demands. It protects William, who has drawn his boundaries and has no intention of softening them for the benefit of his brother's image rehabilitation tour. And it protects the broader royal brand, the carefully maintained perception of stability, continuity, and quiet strength that the monarchy depends on to justify its place in modern British life. What makes this moment so fascinating and so telling is that Harry and Meghan still seem to believe a return is worth attempting. And maybe that speaks to something genuine. Maybe Harry truly misses his home. Maybe the Invictus Games represent something deeply personal to him beyond the politics and the image management. Maybe there's a part of him that still hopes a door somewhere will open, that one conversation will happen. That one moment of connection will crack through the wall that is built up over years of conflict and public drama. And if that's true, if there is still a real human longing underneath all of the strategy and the brand management and the carefully constructed public narrative, then that's genuinely moving. Because Harry grew up in Britain, he served his country, he lost his mother on British soil, he has roots here that go deeper than titles and Netflix deals and the whole complicated machinery of modern celebrity. Those roots don't disappear just because the relationship with the institution has broken down. They don't stop pulling just because the welcome mat has been taken away. But hope isn't a strategy, and according to Tom Bower, the gap between what Harry and Meghan are hoping for and what is actually waiting for them in Britain is wider than they appear to understand. The red carpet isn't coming out, the senior royals aren't gathering to welcome them back, the British public isn't ready to wipe the slate clean. And the legal, security and reputational complications aren't going to pause politely while they try to rehabilitate their image at a sporting event. The hard truth, and Bower doesn't shy away from it, is that the window for a graceful return may have already closed. There was probably a version of this story where Harry and Meghan could have stepped back from royal duties, built their independent life, maintained respectful silence about the family they left behind, and eventually found a way to re-enter British public life on dignified terms. That version required restraint. It required patience. It required a willingness to let time do what time does: soften edges, cool temperatures, create enough distance for forgiveness to become possible. But that's not the path that was chosen. And you cannot go back and choose it now. Every interview, every revelation, every carefully aimed comment that landed in the headlines has made that graceful return harder to achieve. Not impossible, nothing in human relationships is ever truly impossible, but harder, significantly, measurably, perhaps irreversibly harder. And the British public, who once extended this couple more goodwill than almost any in recent memory, has a long and detailed record of exactly what happened to that goodwill. They watched it get spent. They watched the account run dry. And they are not in a rush to refill it simply because Harry has shown up for the Invictus Games. The couple that once had the world in the palm of their hands now finds themselves navigating one of the most complicated, high-stakes returns in modern royal history, and doing it without the institutional support, public goodwill, or family backing that might have made it survivable. The fairy tale that captured the world's imagination has given way to something far more complicated, far more contested, and far more painful for everyone involved, on every side of this divide. And yet, and this is perhaps the most remarkable part of all, the story isn't over. It never feels over with Harry and Meghan. Every time the conversation seems to be winding down, something new pulls it back into the headlines. A legal development, a new interview, a public appearance that generates more heat than light, a statement that raises more questions than it answers. The saga continues, chapter after chapter, and the British public, exhausted as they claim to be, keeps reading every single word. So here's the question that truly matters. Should Harry and Meghan go through with this return, knowing everything that's waiting for them? Is there something to be gained from walking back into that storm, some reconciliation, some closure, some moment of genuine connection that makes it all worth it? Or is this the moment they finally step back, reassess, and accept that some bridges, once burned, simply don't get rebuilt no matter how much you might wish they would? Is the Invictus Games worth the personal and reputational cost of everything that comes attached to it? And is there any version of this visit that ends well, not just for Harry and Meghan, but for the royal family, for the institution, and for the British public that has been watching this drama unfold for years? These are not easy questions, and they don't have clean answers. But they are the questions that define this moment, and the answers, whatever they turn out to be, will shape the next chapter of one of the most extraordinary stories in modern royal history. Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this conversation is far from over and we genuinely want to know exactly where you stand. Do you think Harry and Meghan should make this return? Do you think the royals should show up and support the Invictus Games? And do you think there is any realistic path back to something that resembles peace within this family? If this had you locked in from start to finish, hit that like button. It makes a bigger difference than you might think, and it helps this kind of content reach the people who need to see it. Share this with someone who follows the royal story closely, because there are details in here that even dedicated watchers might have missed. And if you haven't subscribed yet, right now is absolutely the time because we are just getting started, the story is still developing, and you do not want to be the last one to know what happens next. See you in the next one.